You've probably heard me talking about this self-sufficient living skills bundle that's been going on. And I have been spending the last week flipping through so many of the incredible resources within this bundle. Now, I will say there's a lot. There's over 118 different ebooks and courses and lessons sharing incredible wisdom and knowledge with you so you can live off the land and you don't have to rely on this corrupt and broken system for everything for your family. Anyways, I wanted to share some of my favorite things. One, first off, is off-grid homeopathy. This course is loaded with so much incredible knowledge, talking about homeopathy for first aid, for colds and flu, how to make your own homeopathic remedies. Like, as an herbalist who loves to teach that stuff, that's pretty exciting to hear it in the homeopathy realm. There's also some incredible fermentation guides, so many other amazing herbal recipes and food recipes, and how to make your own sourdough bread, how to do your own organic gardening and canning of all of your foods. Really, there is so much. And yes, I know. I've talked about it a ton, but this entire bundle is only $50 right now until Sunday, March 24th. I'm sharing my herbal first aid skills, which is a course that's $47 on its own. I'm sharing recipes that I used when I got my products into REI for herbal first aid kits and so much more. You'll have to check it out. I'm serious. Like, you can absolutely change your life with this bundle. So there is a link in the show notes for you, and I hope you check it out. I hope you take advantage. Don't worry, you don't have to go through everything right away. You can access everything for up to a year. Once you're in the course or have the download, it's yours for life. It is a steal of a deal. Okay, self-sufficient living skills bundle in the links for you. Today's podcast is a super special treat. I had the honor of interviewing Liz Neves, a beautiful herbalist and healer, dream guide, Reiki practitioner. She's also the author of Northeast Medicinal Plants, learning how to identify, harvest, and use 111 wild herbs for health and wellness, as well as being a woman offering a really cool new program called Infuse. This interview with Liz felt healing in and of itself, and you're definitely going to want to tune in. She even guides us on a fantastic meditation at the end of the show. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode as much as I did.
Welcome to the Herbalist's Path, where we're on a mission to inspire a movement where there's an herbalist in every home. Again, with your host, clinical herbalist, Melissa Mutterspaugh.
Welcome to another episode of the Herbalist Path. I am super excited today. I have Liz Neves, an herbalist and Reiki practitioner who also does work with healing drums. And as a drummer myself, that's very exciting. She is a dream guide and a meditation instructor. She is a mama hanging out and teaching people in Brooklyn how to use plants as medicine, which is so stellar because she is in the city of all cities. She's also the author of Northeast Medicinal Plants, Identify, Harvest, and Use 111 Wild Herbs for Health and Wellness. She teaches online classes. She's got a really exciting new program called Infuse coming up that we'll talk about more. And we met about a year ago via another mutual online course, and I've been threatening to get her on this podcast for a super long time and haven't done it yet. So here we are today. And Liz, I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm super psyched to be here.
Yay. Did I miss out on anything else you want to quickly say? We're definitely going to do a lot more talking throughout the interview, but.
Oh my gosh. No, I mean, there's always so much to say, but I think you covered quite a lot. So yeah, You're good. We're good.
I think it's so awesome that you are in Brooklyn and you're teaching people about herbs. And
I love Brooklyn. It's such a cool area, and I have a very, very soft spot in my heart for some experiences I've had there. And, you know, I'm here on Mount Hood in the middle of this vast wilderness in Oregon, and I'm just so curious about various plants and herbs that grow around in your community. Yeah. Can you tell
Yeah.
me just a little about that?
Yeah. So I'm really, really fortunate and blessed to live just a couple of blocks from Prospect Park, which is one of the largest, I want to say, wilderness areas in New York City. It is a wilderness area, even though it is highly populated, especially now during COVID. It's just so well loved by a lot of people. And, I've been coming here for years. Actually, the first plant walk I ever went on was with my friend, and I call her foraging fairy godmother, Leda Meredith. And I was amazed. At that time, I really had no clue what was here. And she just the few plants she pointed out have become really good friends of mine. There's just, aside from the common weeds, there's so many common weeds that grow here. It's just the perfect environment for that. There's such diversity in plants. There's a lot of, the park is leaning more towards planting native plants in order to create, a healthier environment for pollinators and to encourage bird life. And this is also one of the most diverse places for birds in their migratory route. This is like one of their stopping off points when they're heading north or south. And there's just so much life here. Just like there's a diversity of people, there's a diversity of plant culture and animal culture. And yeah, it's kind of unexpected if you don't know and if you don't take a look.
Yeah, that is beautiful. And it was really great as you were talking about the birds. I was listening to the birds in the background of your talking as well. You guys can't see Liz, but I believe she's hanging out in Prospect Park right now. And as she's talking, you can hear the spring birds coming around and celebrating the fact that spring is almost near. It sounds really, really nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. And then, I have a good friend who lives out here in Oregon, but her family is from New York. She's from New York. She was talking about how she was there quite a while ago visiting family, and she was having a hard time. And then she kind of looked off in the distance. I think she was in Central Park, and she was like, "Is that a linden tree?" And it totally was. It was just exactly when she needed it. And it was just a really, really cool story. So I'm so happy to hear that there is still so much nature in the city, and it's so important to help people get connected with that. I'm curious how you help your immediate community in the area. What kinds of things do you have available for people to learn about that connection?
So I've been hosting healing plant walks for the last few years, and that's like the main in-person offering. And I'm still offering it now for small groups who are wearing masks and keeping distance. It's so essential. It wakes people up to, like I was, awakened years ago to what is, who is here, what is here, all the value of these plants, medicinal, edible, and that there's such a rich community of these plants here. So we go out, I try to get people sort of into their own intuition and their own sense of how the plants, the energy of the plants, how they might help us, what kind of attributes they have, just, their personalities, and, have people kind of lean into that. And then I go into sort of the more technical, some of the, more technical aspects of, the form and how it grows and when it's flowering and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it really is like, some people have called it a portal, because it really is, you're being transported in this space that people use recreationally and maybe have picnics and enjoy the nature, but they don't know really who's here around them. And it's like it is an awakening for sure.
That's awesome. So you spoke just for a quick second on when you had that kind of awakening, and I would love to hear more about how life was for you when you first started stepping into the plant world. Like what inspired that and how did it go for you?
My heart is lighting up thinking about that time. It was
Yeah.
such a time of discovery. It was really fun. I really was such a newbie. I worked in advertising. I was a copywriter in pharmaceutical advertising of all things, but there is a big link between that work that I did then and the work that I do now. And it's a different world. I was working in an office and it was, terrible lighting, and I didn't take time to go to the bathroom or get lunch for myself, or I ate lunch while I was doing, it was like very unhealthy lifestyle. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. This is just not right. It just doesn't feel right. I want to work outside. I want to do stuff, I want to be touching the ground and being in nature.
Yeah.
And so I just started kind of getting curious, looking around for, at that time, it was like, I think it was the early 2000s, and people were starting to do, everything was going green, green and sustainability. Those were kind of like the buzzwords. And the blog Tree Hugger, like had just started. It was like all this stuff had just been started surfacing. And I really just tapped into that and was just open to learning anything at all. I started a blog. I started just writing about anything around sustainability. And then I discovered permaculture, and I did a permaculture design certification with Andrew Faust. And it was just so mind-blowing. It really just expanded my whole entire worldview and perception of the world. And then, and I found a few different teachers of herbalism, and I found my friend Layden, she wasn't a friend at the time, but at the time I went on this plant walk. It was a foraging plant walk. And I was just like, whoa. This is what I want to do with my life. This is it. This is what I want to do with my life. It was just so magical for me. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing how once you get there, you're like, oh my gosh, this is it. That's kind of like same thing happened to me when I was in the right place at the right time. And I was like, I know what I want to be when I grow up. And, I was already well into adulthood. And ever since then, that's what my world has been submerged in. So yeah, awesome. You can keep on talking on that. It just made me laugh when you were like, this is it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I know that feeling.
It's such a beautiful feeling. But then you're like, okay, now what? And I feel like it's taken 12 years to get to the point where I am now, which is still feels like, okay, now what? And I think what awakened in me was this idea that, life is for learning and finding something you're passionate about that you can continue to be a student of for the rest of your life is just so powerful. It's just so, it really is, vitalizing. It's like, it just makes you feel alive to know that you'll never stop learning.
Yeah.
That whatever it is that you're passionate about, there's always something to learn.
Yeah, amen to that. I think for me particularly, obviously, I'm passionate about herbalism, and that's one of the key factors that I love about it so much is that I'm never going to quit learning. And while sure, after however long I've been in this world, I kind of started in the early 2000s, 99-ish, and then got even more into it around 2010, but you never quit learning. And I know that I'm so far from an expert, but yet I know that I have so much to offer others that are ready to go in there. And yeah, I just love that I'm not going to be an expert until I'm about 136, and then I'll be close to expert status.
Yeah, totally. And then I think what stops people though is that idea that you need to be an expert before you can start sharing. And that's, I think, such a, it's just a symptom of our culture, that you have to have some kind of degree, or, you have to be, accredited, or, there are some amazing folk herbalists who, are completely self-taught. And I mean, I think I definitely have a lot of teachers to credit, but I am largely self and plant taught. I'll say the teachers that I work with most are the plants themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. I think that, in the world today, it's imposter syndrome is what
Yes.
that is. And I definitely suffer from it myself. And like, I know I have a lot to offer people, and the knowledge I have from the plants and from in-depth studies with other teachers is really, really valuable. But still, there is this little thing in our head that I do believe also is bred from our society of like, oh, well, you're not enough to teach that, or what have you. So I love that you brought that up. What other things what has helped you get through that?
Yeah, I think that's hard to say.
Yeah.
I think leaning into spirituality, leaning into, letting go, just, I don't know, it's hard to articulate. I think just
Mm-hmm.
listening, getting quiet and listening to myself and learning to discern those voices, learning to discern the negative self-talk. Actually, dreams have woken me up a lot. I've had some certain specific dreams that had very clear messages about self-imposed limitations. And that, just paying attention to those and paying attention to those messages and getting more curious about, well, what does that mean? What is a self-imposed limitation? And then, diving deeper into looking at the ways that I'm limiting myself. Because really, when it comes down to it, imposter syndrome and comparing yourself to others and all of these like symptoms of our, I don't know what kind of culture to call it, but mass consumer culture. They're not coming from deep inside. They're not coming from you. And we limit ourselves by these definitions or, external perceptions from that world.
Yeah.
So I think, just, getting into shadow work, getting into, dreaming and meditation, and that definitely. And certain, and I feel so grateful to my community too. Like I'm surrounded by the most beautiful souls who are super supportive and, help me along the way.
Yeah. You can't really see me right now, but my smile is so big listening to you say that. It's really true. Like just getting to the depth and to the true why, and past our superficial culture, I guess is a way of saying it. And yeah, knowing that this is important work and it needs to be shared with the masses so that we can make this world a better place, which leads me to a question for you and your passion in helping people understand plants more and create that connection. What particular things make you think that is so important?
Well, again, another symptom of the pervasive culture, the dominating culture, is that the other, whatever is other than human, is less than. And, that humans, we have had this way of thought, at least in the Western world, the Western dominating culture, that humans are superior to all other forms of life. And so I feel like it's so essential to just flip that upside down and to really listen deeply to the plants themselves. Listen, that these plants have been here. They've predated us for millions of years. They are our teachers. They're our ancestors. We cannot live without them. There is no way that life on earth could continue. I mean, maybe someone could synthesize plant life, but how awful would that existence be, to be, living on Mars and ingesting some synthesized just like, I'm thinking of certain, the sort of pioneer mindset or the colonist mindset of like, let's conquer another place. Let's go and, separate ourselves, divorce ourselves completely from the earth, which is what, I think the pervasive culture does is we are divorced from the reality of the beauty of this earth and what's here, and who, what, the true teachers are really everyone but the humans.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, there's so much knowledge and wisdom, and I love the saying, if you listen they will teach you, which is something that the United Plant Savers shares a lot on stickers, and I have them around my shop. And Yeah, there is so much to learn in there. And I love the connection piece. Like, a lot of our society today really lacks that connection to the earth and to what really truly is, and knowing that our society and our culture is so young in the grand scheme of things. They're like, the plants are our elders, and they are wise, and they have been through so much. It's really, really beautiful. I wonder, one question for you: if you could pick just one herb you wish everybody knew, what would it be?
I knew you were going to ask something like this. And I'm like, because for me, it's
such a
so
hard
hard to
question.
choose one herb. I mean,
It's really
nettles,
hard.
I think nettles always comes to mind. Nettles is just so deeply nourishing and balancing for the whole entire body. And I think, that is like an issue. I think nutrition and nutrients and just, getting greens in the body is probably like something a lot of people need. Yeah, I think, just drinking nettle, and it takes care of like root issues, root imbalances. I think when we take care of the, our input of minerals and vitamins and chlorophyll, and, it's just, yeah, I think nettles.
Awesome. What are some of your favorite ways to bring nettles into your body?
I love making nettle pesto. Every spring when the nettles come, I blanch the nettles and then I blend them up with basil and some seeds and maybe some, olive oil, lemon, sometimes some nutritional yeast. I try to do dairy-free as much as possible. And that's my favorite way. And I just eat it by the spoonful or put it on crackers. It's the best.
That's awesome. I love a good nettle pesto too. If somebody were to want to use nettles, but they want to use it year round, what would you recommend that they do?
Hey, I wanted to take a quick pause to show some love and gratitude to our sponsors of the Herbalist Path podcast, who make this show possible for me and possible for you too. So here it goes. Medicinal mushrooms are all the rage these days, if you didn't know already. And with great reason, because they are powerful medicine that can improve your health and your life in so many different ways when they're well made. Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of stuff on the market that isn't going to be so effective. And that's why you need to find a brand that you can actually trust. For me, that brand is Whole Sun Wellness, and this is the creation of a brilliant woman and fellow mama, Jamie Bonfiglio. She's an international mushroom educator that has been working in the medicinal mushroom industry for years. And this is when she saw firsthand how many other companies take shortcuts when it comes to their products. And Jamie wasn't having it. She set out to build her company the right way. Whole Sun Wellness is here to raise the industry standards so those crap mushrooms on the market aren't getting into your body or your family's body. Whole Sun Wellness is the first company to test and report nutritional facts for all of their extracts. They go beyond industry standards every step of the way, from sourcing to extraction and final testing. And as the owners of the largest medicinal mushroom farm in the United States, Whole Sun Wellness is taking control of their supply chain for the highest quality and absolute full transparency. They're even the first company to include pure mycelium extract in every single product. So when you're thinking of getting medicinal mushrooms for you and your family, Whole Sun Wellness is exactly the ones you want. Also, be sure to check out their new Mycolites. These are the world's first dissolvable electrolyte tablets. They're featuring functional mushroom extracts that'll give you more energy, more stamina, and recovery as well. And who couldn't use all of that? The other thing is, they are these adorable little mushroom-shaped tablets, and they come in like a little Altoids box, but way cooler than Altoids because they're Mycolites. Anyways, head to wholesunwellness.com to grab yourself some mycolights and all of the other functional medicinal mushrooms that you and your family need. And of course, you can grab that link right here in the show notes now.
Well, there's two things. One is I blanch and freeze. Like as soon as the nettles come, I just blanch and freeze as many as I can. And, as much fits in the freezer. That's one thing you can do. But also dried nettles. You can rehydrate nettles. You can cook with rehydrated nettles. And you can make infusions. That's like my son, whenever he's sniffly or his allergies are bothering him, I just brew up a big quart of nettles and maybe throw in some, rose hips and some herbs that he likes, like lavender and mint. And he'll just drink that all day. It's so easy to just make a big brew of nettles and drink it. It's great.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Awesome. So about being a mom, I think our kiddos are about the same age. My daughter will be 8 in July, and it's so much fun to be able to teach these kids about plants. I want to hear some of the best ways you get your son in the world of plants and some of his favorite things.
Yeah. So, I think when he was a little bit, he's 8. And I think when he was a little bit younger, he liked getting in there and he just still does. He's like, can I make the infusion with you? He gets in there and makes it. But being out in the park, there's just been some experiences where he's needed an herb. Like a few summers ago, he kept stepping on sweat bees and getting stung in the bottom of his foot, like multiple times throughout the summer. And he knew right away to go for the plantain and chew it up, put it on the sting, and it draws out the poison. Even the stinger, if the stinger's in there, it helps to extract the stinger. And he's got that ingrained in him, and he's taught it to friends too. And then another time we were at the Botanic Garden, and they have a desert room. It's like this greenhouse just for desert plants. And he saw this very fuzzy looking cactus, and he thought it was really cute, and he started petting it. And then he had all these cactus needles in his fingers. And same thing, when we went out, we were like, where's the plantain or dock or, whatever we could find, whatever plants we could find to extract the needles out of his fingers. So yeah, he's totally got that connection.
I think, isn't that like one of the most beautiful feelings as a parent? Like parenting is so hard, but when your kid has something like that on lockdown at an early age, for me, it's like, heck yeah. I know my daughter was like 3 or 4 and we were in the park playing with friends and a friend got an ouchie and she was crying and my daughter comes over with a plantain leaf, like, here you go. I was just like, right there, I just won parenting lottery. That's Yay. Perfect. Yeah. It was like the best thing ever. So I think that's one of like the plants that I think everybody needs to know, but particularly people with children.
Yeah.
I love
for
it.
Sure.
So much. It's one of my favorite little friends. Tell us about your book. I think it is so awesome that you have written a book. I want to hear more about it.
Yeah, it's really, I never thought I would write a book in my whole life. I was like, really? I don't think I have that in me. But one day, I don't know, a few years ago, I was like, you know what? I think I'm ready. I'm going to write a book. And it wasn't this book. It was some other idea. But I said it out loud. And then a month later, my same friend that I mentioned earlier, Leda Meredith, she wrote the book Northeast Foraging. She had moved out of the city and she said, hey, Timber Press wants me to write this book, but I'm not in the city anymore. I'm not in the Northeast anymore. And it's Northeast medicinal plants. You want to take a look at this? And I was like, yeah, definitely. So the process was, I only had about a year to do the whole thing, photography and write the book. Yeah, and edit and everything.
Oh, wow. And if it's
crazy,
not timed right with the photography, you're in big trouble. Like,
I was really fortunate I just queried some other herbalists, like Seven Song. He actually contributed some of his photographs, and he's an amazing herbalist who is out all the time just photographing the plants and has like a rich library of medicinal plants photos. And so it was like I made a calendar at the beginning of the year, just mapping out which plants bloom when and which plants leaf, at this time. And and really kind of figured out, okay, well, where can I find these plants? Certain ones I knew I'd find everywhere, and other plants were a little bit more obscure. And I thought, well, how am I gonna, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna pull this off? But somehow I managed to do it. Yeah. And the list, the list kept changing. I had an idea that I proposed in the beginning, and some herbs fell off and some came back on. And most of the reason why certain herbs fell off has more to do with the sustainability, whether that they're at risk. So I really tried hard to stick with plants that are in abundance. And if they aren't, or they're in abundance in certain regions of the Northeast, there's certain plants that you just won't find in certain areas based on the ecology or, development or for whatever reason. Yeah. So yeah, it was quite a process. I thought, I want to do this again, and I have an idea for a book, but I'm just like, how did I even manage to find the time to do it? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. It sounds like a really complex process, but I think that part of it must have had a lot to do with the fact that you're actually out there with the plants. So there's something to be said about taking the time to actually be with them and be like, well, what am I going to write about them? And how am I going to photograph this plant? It's just you get to go on excursions.
Yes. That was my favorite part. So, and I made excursions, we rented a place in Woodstock and, spent some time up there and went to Cape Cod. So I was trying to get myself immersed in a few different environments where I knew I'd find some of the particular plants that weren't readily available here in Brooklyn to hang out with.
Great.
And I feel so fortunate that I was able to, capture so many and be with so many during that year. That was such a beautiful, expanding learning process for me too.
Yeah. It sounds amazing. I am really curious about it. I've had the ideas of a few different books for many years and just haven't pulled the trigger because I suffer from excessively busy-itis. It's a terrible, terrible itis, I tell you.
Wow, what a great chunk of knowledge we just heard. I love learning new things, especially better ways to take care of myself and my family. But if you're like me, I love the knowledge, but I'm often too busy to put it into practice, making my own salves and teas and such. Thank goodness, the lovely folks over at Mountain Mills are already doing it for me. Their herbal teas support my mind, body, and soul, and they taste great too. And their line of outdoor essential products supports my family's outdoor fun and quickens our recovery afterwards when we overdo it. So hop on over to mountainmells.com and use the code THP15 at checkout to receive a 15% discount, especially for listeners of the Herbalist's Path. That's THP15 for 15% off your order of delicious goodness today.
When you were talking about some of the plants that kind of fell out of the book, you were talking about the sustainability and whether they're at risk or not. And I'm wondering if you have a resource to share with people that can help others learn what plants are at risk and what that even means and how they can ensure that these plants are available for future generations.
I wanted to take a quick pause to show some love and gratitude to our sponsors of the Herbalist Path podcast, who make this show possible for me and possible for you too. So here it goes. I love this time of year. It's spring, the sun is shining, and all of our beautiful plant friends are popping up. It's amazing. Unless, of course, you're one of the millions of people who suffer from seasonal allergies. You know, the itchy, watery eyes, the sneezing and wheezing that's straight miserable. Thankfully, there are some amazing herbs that can help you with all of that. Just like the herbs inside of Kick-Ass Allergy from Wish Garden Herbs, one of my absolute favorite herbal companies out there. Kick-Ask Allergy. Yes, I said ask without the K at the end. Anyways, this formula has yerba santa, nettles, echinacea for that immune support, and orange peels, all which come together to help dry up those excessive mucosal secretions. Yep, I'm talking about the sniffles and the stuffy nose, the watery eyes, and all that jazz. This blend also acts as a great expectorant and can help ease the swelling and inflammation in those mucosal tissues. It is a top go-to for seasonal allergies. And get this, they combine all those beautiful herbs with glycerin, so it actually tastes pretty darn good. Or should I say, it tastes kick-ass, without the K at the end. Anyways, if allergy season is miserable for you and you want a natural remedy that actually works for those itchy eyes and being all sneezy and wheezy, you have got to check out Wish Garden Herbs Kick-Ass Allergy. And for those of you with the little kiddos, no sweat, they've got a Kick It allergy too. And you pregnant mamas? You don't have to suffer either. They've got a kick-ass allergy formula just for you. So head over to wishgardenherbs.com or check out the link in the show notes and go grab yourself some kick-ass allergy so you can enjoy spring again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think one resource is just being tuned into your environment and knowing, getting outside and knowing who's around in abundance, because it's going to vary from place to place. But also, so there's a bunch of different resources that I turned to when writing the book. One of the first ones was actually the USDA plants website that maps the ranges of the plants and gets down to the different species and then the subordinate taxa. And it gets really technical about, which plants are going where, which ones are threatened and endangered. And then it has like a categorization, threatened, endangered, at risk, and then there's a few other sites that I turn to. One is NatureServe. That's another one that has a different way of cataloging plants, the sort of levels of threat, which ones are endangered and where. And then the IUCN Red List is another resource that I used. And of course, United Plant Savers, they don't get specific about region. So I turn to them just for sort of a general idea of which plants to kind of not include in the book. But some of them, I did, like echinacea is one that's on their list, but it's doing okay here in certain areas. And I try to get really specific too about, where this plant is at risk, which states, which areas of the region, if certain species, and getting, specific about, hey, this kind of goldenrod is in abundance, but this one isn't, I also love the Go Botany website, which is very specific to New England. They also list whether plants are at risk, and they have maps using the biota of North America. I don't know if you know the BONAP, BONAP.
No.
Yeah.
This is great. I'm so glad I asked this question because you're dropping a lot of them that I haven't heard of. So awesome.
Yeah.
That's such an important piece.
There was lots of cross-referencing, because they're not all consistent. With some of them, the data might not be as new. It's an area of research that has to be constantly, updated and constantly monitored and surveyed. And I don't know who's doing that. I actually don't know, who's doing that work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like a kind of cool job, though.
Yeah.
Whoever's
going to field cataloging. Yeah, it'd be so cool.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't ask where is the best place for people to buy your book. I do talk with a lot of people that are out on the East Coast, and they're like, we're so far apart, you and I. And so I've turned a few people on to you, but I'd love for others to know how they can get access to your book. Is it best to order through your website or, yeah?
Yeah, I think that's definitely the best place to order from is my website. And because I could sign the book if you are interested in that, I could sign it and I'll send you a little personal note along with it. And yeah, you can order directly from gatheringground.nyc. Yeah, I try to keep it in stock as much as possible. Always have the books on hand. And if they're not, immediately in stock, I will have them within the next few days. I try to keep on top of that.
Yeah. So thank you. So
Yeah.
gatheringground.nyc is probably a really good area or space to get in touch with you also if somebody wants to get out and learn with you in person and do some of these plant walks.
Yes, absolutely. The plant walks and just, general questions. And I also have some online offerings. One big one coming up called Infuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about Infuse.
So the idea came to me while I was in the bathtub. That's where a lot of ideas come.
Of course.
I'm sure other people could say that, they're in the shower and ideas come, it's like the water flowing, it's the energy of the water flowing. But yeah. So I was thinking about, I don't know how, exactly where it came in, but the idea of slowing down and focusing on one plant at a time, because like we were talking about, being multi-passionate, being someone who wants to do everything all at once. I'm the same way with the plants. Like I want to learn everything all at once.
Right.
I want to, make infusions with like 5 or 6 or 7 herbs in them because I'm like, oh, and this one, I love this plant and this, and there's some method to the madness, but anyway, I think the best way to learn about plants is really just to spend a lot of time with one at a time. And so each month of this course, you'll receive weekly lessons in sort of very digestible format. So the first lesson of each month will be a meditation and an invitation to connect with the energy and spirit of the plant. And then it'll unfold to identification and getting to know where you can find the plant, where it's at home, and how to discern it from other plants. And then there'll be, lessons on wildcrafting ethically and on making medicine, making the best medicine, and also some really fun, like cultural sort of symbolism and spirituality around each of the plants. For example, the first lesson is birch. And there's just so much beautiful wisdom around new beginnings and hope and being this real strong symbol of inspiration and creativity. And so, we get into that too. And I think that helps people embody the knowledge and it becomes relatable. It's not like you're just studying a science textbook or, looking at a whole list of materia medica and getting bogged down and confused about which plant is which. You're just like really
overwhelmed.
Yeah, and getting super overwhelmed. I mean, I've been there, and I think that's why I shy away from formal herbal education, because I don't want to overwhelm myself. I already do that myself. I don't need a curriculum to do that for me.
Right? Yeah. I so get that. That sounds amazing. It sounds like a really, really fantastic program. I know quite a few of my teachers over the years have also really emphasize the need to take some time to get to know each individual plant before you start trying to get all crazy and crafty and creative with putting together formulas, which is a whole nother art and science in and of itself. So that just sounds really beautiful and healing and so connecting. It sounds really magnificent. Where can people learn more about Infuse and how can they take part in this awesome program with you?
Yeah, so you can also check that out through my website, gatheringground.nyc. There, you can go to the events page and click through the Infuse event, and it'll take you to the deeper information on it. I've been posting a lot on Instagram as well about the program, and you can check that out. And I'm having a Q&A actually tomorrow on Instagram Live. Yeah. So if you want to tune, well, this probably won't be published by then, but
it might be.
It might be.
Just so you guys know, today is February 24th.
And there'll be a replay, so you can always check that out. And You can also just direct message me on Instagram, Gathering Ground, and I'll be happy to answer any questions about it.
I love that. This isn't something I brought up in our little pre-chat, but just talking with you and listening to you is really, really beautiful. And I can absolutely feel your spirit and your soul and your amazing ways of being just a magnificent healer. Like I can feel that energy through our conversation. And you are welcome to say no to my next request because it's kind of popped up on you. But I'm wondering if you would be willing to just lead us in a little bit of a meditation.
Yeah, I could do that. Sure.
Yay.
I'd be happy to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's a particular meditation that I lead every time I lead a plant walk. And it's something that anyone could do at any time. And you can luxuriate and extend it out into any length you want, or you can make it really brief. Once you get the knack of it, you'll be like, oh, I can just tune in. So let's start. If you feel comfortable or you're able to close your eyes, as long as you're not driving a car or something like that, or you can just gently rest your gaze somewhere softly, let your vision kind of go soft, let the mists kind of come into your vision. And then take a few breaths in and out, noticing without any judgment or change the rhythm of your breath. And then just drop into your heart and feel the energy there. Maybe you see a light or a color. You can let that light or color grow every time you breathe in and out. And now let that heart awareness, however you feel it or visualize it, let that heart awareness go down through your body, down to the earth below. If you're in a chair in a building, just imagine going through all the layers of that built structure and down into the soil beneath that, and feel into the life in that soil. Feel into the minerals, all the roots and the fungi connected in a network around the world. And then you can breathe that energy and that awareness up into your heart. And then on your next exhale, bring that heart awareness deeper now, below that thin surface of earth, down into the supportive rocky layers of the earth. Imagine just really being held and supported by this solid earth beneath you, and also supported by those minerals that are a part of us. And breathe that awareness of support up into your heart. Now, on your next exhale, go deeper down into the molten layers of the earth. They're flowing dynamically like fire, liquid fire. This is like the passion and the creation of the earth. Breathe that awareness, that dynamic energy up into your heart. And then one last time, we're going to go down into the core of the earth. This is the heart of the earth. We cannot see it, but we know it's there. And it's moving dynamically in opposition to the rest of the planet, creating the electromagnetic field pulsing out and touching our own hearts, telling us that we are home, and pulsing out and protecting us from the radiation of the sun, creating the conditions that are just right for sustaining life on this planet. And just breathe all of those layers of awareness of the earth beneath you up into your heart and rest in that knowing that you are connected to that always. And whenever you feel a bit off or disconnected, you can always just come back to that connection to the heart of the earth. And when you're ready, just take a few breaths in and feel the air on your skin. Move your body around however it feels good. Then gently flutter your eyes open. Then come back.
Yay!
Yay!
Thank you so much. That was really, really lovely. I love that you could just spur of the moment lead me on a nice little meditation. And everybody that gets to listen to this, that was really, really, really nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yay. Thanks for inviting that.
Yeah, thank you so much for offering it. It was really, really wonderful. Before we cruise on out of here, I wonder if you had some advice or wisdom for somebody that is just beginning their journey down the herbalist path. What would you want to say to them?
I'd say be curious. Your curiosity is going to bring you to the most magical places. Be curious and just listen. Listen to your own intuition and listen to the plants. They are really speaking to us all the time. Just tune in and listen. And also slow down. Don't overwhelm yourself. Speaking from experience, you can do this. You can focus on one plant at a time.
Yeah, that is beautiful advice. I really love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like I could chat with you forever and ever. Unfortunately, I can't right now, but it doesn't mean we can't talk beyond here. I really want people to be able to connect with you. I think you have so much to offer people and the world and the planet and the plants. And I know we've mentioned your website, gatheringground.nyc, a few times. We've talked about Infuse, which sounds like an absolutely incredible program. By the way, is that an ongoing enrollment kind of program? If somebody were to be listening to this podcast 6 months from now, could they sign up for Infuse with you?
Yeah, at this point, there's going to be entry points every 3 months.
Nice.
So with the seasons, so the first one is spring for 3 months. And then, you can sign on for 3, 6, 9, or 12 months at any point when there's an entryway, and it'll be with the turning of the seasons.
I love that. That sounds really, really, really beautiful. And then they can head to your website, gatheringground.nyc. I say it again, to get your book, Northeast Medicinal Plants, right? Which sounds really magnificent. Where they'll learn to identify, harvest, and use 111 wild herbs for health and wellness. That is a lot of herbs. So it's great that you're also offering Infuse. Where else can people find you? What else do you want people to know before we sign off?
You can find me on Instagram at Gathering Ground. My Facebook page is at Gathering NYC. I also have a Twitter account that I don't usually use at Gathering NYC. I think those 2 platforms are enough, although I don't know. I just joined Clubhouse. I don't know if you know about that one. I haven't really tapped in yet because it's just like, I can't overwhelm myself with another thing. But maybe, I don't know, maybe someday I'll get into the groove of that too.
Yeah, I've been on it for a minute. And the first week I was like heavily addicted. And now I'm shying away from it.
Yeah.
It seems just not where I need to be. Anyways, that's a whole other thing.
Another tangent. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. This has really, really been lovely. And thank you so much for guiding me on that meditation. I was fully in it the entire time, and it's really going to set me off for a wonderful rest of my day. I hope when people listen to the podcast, they also get the chance to actually take part in that meditation because it was really, really fantastic. And it's been so great to actually connect with you finally after this
Yay,
long
finally.
time. So thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Oh, thank you so much, Mel. It's been such a pleasure and such a joy. Thank you.
Yay. Have a beautiful rest of your day as you watch the snow start to drip away there. And the birds in the meditation again. Perfect.
Perfect. The universe
Yeah.
is aligning. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Have
Thanks
a
again.
wonderful one. Yes, you're
You
so welcome.
too. Bye.
Bye.
This has been the Herbalist's Path, where we're on a mission to inspire an herbalist in every home, again. Thanks so much for joining us. If you'd like to support our mission, please subscribe, rate, and review to help others find us. Together, we can make herbalism #spread like wildflowers. Wishing you all a lovely day. Bye for now.
It has been so much fun and so, I don't know, joyous watching all of my medicinal plant friends popping up in my garden, from the Ella Campaign to the Comfrey and the Arnica. I love seeing these friends pop up. And if you are still trying to decide what to grow in your medicinal herb garden, you've got to grab my guide. It's all about the most essential herbs that every mom should know and should grow. So I teach you how to grow them and the many different ways that you can use them. If you want to grab the guide, go ahead. It's free, and I'm pretty sure you're going to get a lot of delight and use out of it. And there's a link to it in the show notes. I'm wishing you tons of happy medicine planting.